First, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Hello, welcome to Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibbler. As always, thanks for joining us. We are live streaming on our apps, our website, and our social media channels, so lots of places to find us. And if you are on Facebook or YouTube, feel free to comment along and let us know any questions or comments that you have about the topics that we're going to be covering. Right now, we're going to be talking about the Oregon Department of Transportation and wintry roads, which, you know, they're not quite here yet, although we are seeing some road closures over on the coast right now from flooding. But we know it's going to happen. There's going to be snow and ice at some point. So how's the preparation going for that when it happens? Well, ODOT just received $19 million in additional funding from the governor. So we're going to talk about that funding, how they're preparing, all of that stuff right now with our guest, Don Hamilton from ODOT. Don, thank you very much for joining me here today.
Good to be with you, Greg. Thanks for having me on.
And, I'm excited to talk to you and find out some of this information. So I guess to start off, we have the news that there was $19 million of additional funding going to ODOT to help repair. Can you walk us through what you're using that funding for?
Well, we're really stoked that the governor and the legislative leaders are agreeing to provide some of these funds for us. This will be coming up. This is going to get us to a point where we were last year, where we can provide the services that we were hoping to do. We've been talking about this for a while, that this helps us restore the maintenance services to where they were last year, that we're going to be able to provide the overtime that we always need every year for the staff. We're going to be able to get the new fleet procurements, snow plows, that we were hoping to provide for this year. We can address some vegetation management issues. We're going to be providing some striping on the edge lines at the side of the road on some low volume roads. That was one of the things that was going to kind of drop off for us this year as the resources, as the funds were starting to decline for us this year too. So this $19 million is really going to get us to where we need to be. We're so pleased that the legislature and the governor is going to get us going this year and get us to where we need to be.
Well, you mentioned, there's the overtime pay, which naturally that goes into it for when you have this, but it sounds like some of the other things are very visible changes that people are going to be seeing if you're adjusting vegetation and new lines and things like that. So this is something that people are going to notice.
Yeah, people are going to notice this too. I mean, we haven't had any snow in the Portland area yet this year, but as you were saying, yeah, well, we might. That may be coming up too. We were worried that with the decline in the funding that we were going to have, that we might not be able to plow as frequently as we have in the past. But now we're pretty confident that we're going to be able to maintain the snowy roads as we have been able to in the past, once we have these new resources coming in too. So we're pleased that we're going to be able to get the resources out there that we're going to need for this too. I mean, we have all of our tools are ready to go. We have our sand and our deicer and our salt and the plows, and they're out there ready to go. But we're getting to where we need to be, and we're ready to hit the snow if it comes to us.
And, with something like that, I guess it's probably hard to estimate how many days you think you would be able to handle, because it depends on how many storms that we have. But you feel that you're adequately prepared for the upcoming winter.
We feel like we're ready to go. I mean, we will do the job ahead of us with the resources that we've got. And that's always the case out there. We've always got to address the issues as best we can with the resources that we have out there too. If things get ugly, which, certainly they do sometimes in there too, we can call in resources from other parts of the state. We go to look to Eastern Oregon, Central Oregon, where they certainly have a lot more snow, and they have to attack the winter with a lot more resources than we have here in Northwest Oregon, here in the Valley. But we have, on occasion, we've called in resources from other parts of the state. We call for help sometimes if we need it, and they will come and they'll bring us help. They'll bring in extra resources, extra staff. They'll bring in extra equipment. So when we need help, we'll call for it. But that only happens when things get a little bit out of hand, and that happens sometimes.
Yeah, it does. And I guess to that point, one of the things that can really mess up the roads here in Northwest Oregon, there's the snow side of it, but ice can really cause a lot of problems once that occurs. And I know there's different ways of attacking that and trying to mitigate some of the issues with ice. What's the plan this year for ODOT?
We hope for sunshine and 40 degrees. That's our best way to attack the snow. When we get ice, we need the help of the public when things go bad like that too. We have the tools that we mentioned. We have salt, we have plows, we have sand, and we have the deicer out there too. A lot of times winter maintenance is, I've always thought it's sort of more art than it is science out there for understanding which tools to use and when out on the road. So attacking ice, ice is really the worst thing that you can get out there on the road. We've got to get the help of the public when things get really bad. We need the public's help to just stay home, stay off the road, make sure that we can get our equipment out there and do the job that they need to do without the public on the road, if at all possible. If we can get the public out there and to stay off the road, when we get our plows and our trucks and our equipment and our salt and our sanders out there, without the public out there, that gets us to be able to attack the roads, attack the ice better, as best as we can out there too. It's not easy. This is a tough job when we're out there, and when it goes on for days and days and days, wow, that's what we want to avoid out there too. So the more the public can help us when we're in the middle of a really bad winter storm, a really bad ice episode, the more help we can get from the public, the better off we all are.
What are some things that people can do at home, in anticipation of at some point we will have bad roads?
Well, they can stay home and make sure that their own facilities are taken care of. Don't dump their own snow out on the roads. They've got to be able to avoid that. They've got to be able to understand that their crews, their local city crews, that the state crews are doing the best job they can out there too. Make sure that when they do have to go out on the road, that they don't pass the equipment on the right. That's very dangerous out there too. Make sure that you allow the plows and the sanders and the salt trucks and all of those crews, give them the space that they need to do the job that they need to get done out there on the road. So when you're out on the road, make sure that you give them the room that they need to get the job done. When they're at home, take an extra day. Take a snow day at home if you can do that at all. If there was one advantage to the pandemic, I can't imagine there's any advantage to the pandemic. I can't believe I'm saying that. But at least we understood what it meant to work at home a little better. So if at all possible, take an extra snow day when we get hit hard by a storm. That might help. It might let the crews out there, the city crews, the county crews, the state crews, to get the job done, get the road clear, might help everybody out a little bit more.
Do you take general, far out forecasting, which I know can't be 100% accurate, but I'm talking about, months or predictions for the winter into consideration when you're planning for the winter season?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We're watching that a lot. We're getting briefings from the National Weather Service. We're watching the broadcasters too. The TV weather crews are very sophisticated in what they're doing, also in how they're looking at the weather forecast. But obviously, you've got to be ready for whatever is going to happen out there too. We're watching very carefully for what is coming up. We're watching the long-term forecast. We're watching the medium-term forecast, and then we're watching the sky. We're trying to find out what happens out there too. That's the most important thing. Here's something that we need to know about what's going on the roads. There's usually these tools that we were talking about. The salt and the sand and the plows. Obviously, you can't plow anything until there's something on the road. But the deicer, the magnesium chloride, that's the one tool that we can put out on the road before something comes out on the road. We can put deicer on the road. We can treat the roads before a storm comes. But we can't put anything else on the road before. But you got to be very, very careful. We were talking about how sort of winter maintenance is sometimes more art than it is science. But you put that de-icer on the road before. You can't put it when it's going to rain because that just washes the de-icer off the road. Taxpayers don't like it when we're washing the de-icer off the road. That's a waste of money. But when you can, when the forecast is right, when you can put the de-icer on the road before it comes, before the rain, before the snow or the ice hits, you're really having a real positive impact on the road. The de-icer can prevent ice and snow from bonding to the surface of the road. That's going to have a really good impact on the road out there too. So the de-icer is a real tool that we can use out on the road before the storm hits. It's the one tool we can do before anything hits out there too. So that's part of when we're looking at the forecast, as you were talking about. That's the short-term forecast that we're looking at.
And you mentioned it's that specific de-icer is kind of the magic tool there for that, to be able to put that out ahead of time. Do you think that you have enough with the funding that you just received?
So far, so good. I mean, we haven't had to use that here in the Portland area so far this year. We did do a little treating back about a week ago in the Portland area, back in late November, around Thanksgiving. We had a lot of cold and some frosty mornings, and we did have our crews out treating the de-icer on the roads out there too, because we were getting a lot of cold mornings out there too. Now it was warming up later in the day, so it wasn't too bad, but we did have our crews out before dawn on those frosty mornings out there. So we were treating those highways. The Fremont Bridge was a particular problem out there on those mornings. So we had a couple of days where we were laying the magnesium chloride out on the roads. So with a rust inhibitor, by the way, I should add. So we did have some days where we were putting that down. So we will pick some spots. Now, let's remember one thing too, is our maintenance crews are out there really all in their own particular areas. They're trying to find the right spots. They know their areas. They know the areas that have a lot of, let's say, shady areas where they know that area is going to freeze up. I'm going to go put some de-icer out there. So they know their areas in particular. So there's not like one rule that has to go for everywhere around in there. They know where to go, and it's very localized, our maintenance crews, what they do. So they will go out when it's going to get cold out there. They'll know the spots to go to.
They're used to it. Yeah, they've seen it. They know it's this one bend right here that's going to be a problem, or things like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Since it is happening right now at the coast, I'm just curious. You know, there is some flooding right now over on the coast on 101, or at least right before we started. I haven't updated it since we've been talking. Maybe that's changed, but there was a section there that was flooded. What do you do in those situations? Is there anything that can be done when the road floods like that?
Well, you know, on one level, this is one time when ODOT can blame the moon for some of the problems that we're having out there, because we're having some closures on Highway 101. This is south of Seaside and around Tillamook. And this is partly due to the tide. We're getting some king tides, they call them, around in there. And so we've had closures on 101 south of Seaside and in Tillamook around in there too. And around on Highway 6, just east of Tillamook, we're getting some closures too. And at this point, we're really just waiting for the tide to scale back. We're waiting for these waters to recede before we can get these roads open. And we don't have any prediction yet about what that's going to be. So we're just waiting for these waters to recede. We're getting a lot of speculation at this point, but it's really just that. It's speculation. We'll get those roads open as soon as we can safely do so. Maybe later tonight, maybe in the morning. I just don't know. I don't want to guess, which is what I was just doing. So,
yeah, I mean, this is one case where nature really does have to take its course right there. So
nature always wins in situations like this. Yeah. There's only so much we can do.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Don, thank you for joining me here today to talk about this. Anything else that you want to let people know about for the winter? We may have covered everything, but just to
Well,
give you that
this is
opportunity.
it. This is just a reminder that when we're getting this is an Oregon storm. It's not an awful Oregon storm, but it's an Oregon storm. It's got a lot of water in it. It's got a lot of rain, and it's just a reminder that we all need to be careful and we all need to look out for each other out there. Slow down. Look out for the high water. We all need to make sure that we can get home safely.
Well, Don, thank you very much for joining me to share that information and letting people know about how that funding's going and the preparation that you're doing. And thanks, for all you do out there. That is as you mentioned, that's a very hard job when this does happen. And I'm sure, people are never 100% happy about anything. So I'm sure you have to face that too. But it's you out there that are, keeping the roads safe for us. So really appreciate that and appreciate your time.
Thanks, Ray. Good to be with you.
Thanks, Don. All right, and for everybody watching, appreciate you joining us here too. This is Fox 12 Now. If this is your first time watching, thank you. I always want to make sure that I do that because I do appreciate all of you who are tuning into this and the segments that we get to do and the conversations we get to have here. We're going to continue on. If you're watching on Facebook and YouTube, you'll see the stream end. Just head on over to the apps and the website. I will be continuing on there at 1:30 p.m. I'll be back on Facebook and YouTube again with comedian Jeremiah Coughlin. He's a local comedian. He's got an album recording coming up, and he has a new podcast called Sleepy Time Sports that's designed to put you to sleep. So how does a comedian putting you to sleep? The jokes kind of write themselves. We'll find out about that, but that's coming up at 1:30. So again, though, I'll continue on with some other coverage right over here on the website and app.